back to Braintree Today. I'm Martha Constantinides and you're watching BCAM TV. We'll be getting you right into our coronavirus updates for the week. Before we get into our COVID updates, within the past few weeks, reports of numerous members of the White House tested positive for COVID-19. Most recently, President Donald Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, tested positive as well. Currently, there are around 30 individuals who have tested positive after interactions with the president and those in the White House. Back to our COVID updates. Since no new medical breakthroughs have currently been made, Massachusetts is still moving forward with Phase 3 of the reopening plan. The state will continue to monitor health trends as Governor Charlie Baker releases updates to the public. Here's more from his press conference on October 13th.
Healthcare and hospital systems were overwhelmed. Not here in Massachusetts. In April, the number of COVID patients being treated in the ICU reached a maximum of 1,085. Today, there are around 80 patients in ICUs, a 90% reduction.
The governor went on to discuss ICU numbers and hospitalizations in the Commonwealth and compared current trends to what Massachusetts saw this past spring.
Last spring, we saw a peak of about 4,000 patients being treated in our hospitals for COVID. Today, we have about 500 patients in our hospitals who have either tested positive for COVID or are suspected of testing positive, but the actual COVID patient census across Massachusetts hospitals these days is less than 300. That also represents a reduction of more than 90% from last spring's peak.
The state of Massachusetts tracks the severity of cases on a town-by-town map as we move forward with COVID-19. With most locations in the green or gray signifying low positive test rates, Baker went on to address how the state plans to take on a surge if needed.
Today, hospital occupancy statewide stands at 68%, and ICU occupancy stands at 52%. Hospitals deployed surge plans in the spring and have spent the past months refining those. The Commonwealth is now in a position to quickly expand capacity to care for more COVID patients if hospitalizations dramatically rise. If needed, at least an additional 450 ICU beds could be made available by converting existing med-surg space.
Governor Baker went on to address PPE and how hospitals are planning ahead for the winter and COVID-19.
For the most part, hospitals are reporting that supply chains are back to normal, but that hasn't slowed down our efforts. We've continued to add millions of pieces of PPE to the state stockpile over the last several months, far more than we have ever had before. And based on the PPE we now have and shipments we expect later this fall, we have sufficient PPE to support emergency supply needs of healthcare and human service providers and first responders from now until the end of 2021.
For more information on grants and guidelines, you can visit mass.gov/reopening. Boston Mayor Marty Walsh also held a press conference on October 15th where he discussed updates on school reopening plans.
We are strengthening our focus on prevention and community outreach and support as well in all the neighborhoods in the city where we're seeing these numbers go high. As a reminder, because of the uptick in activity, we have paused our phased-in reopening plan for the BPS schools. We pushed it back a week. Today was supposed to be Phase 3. We're supposed to start in-person learning.
With this, the Boston mayor also announced Boston's efforts in keeping the city safe and how they'll move forward with COVID-19.
They include the Boston Public Health Commission, Health and Human Services, Inspectional Services, the Boston Parks Department, Neighborhood Services, and the Boston Police Department. We are discussing efforts to tighten enforcement on gathering limits, restrictions on unpermitted public events, and unsanctioned activities in our parks. They are working to help restaurants follow restrictions on table size, distancing, and masks, and will be conducting spot checks and visits with businesses to ensure regulations are being followed.
With hopes to keep moving forward in the fight against COVID-19, Governor Charlie Baker and Boston Mayor Marty Walsh will continue to update the public as more information is being released. Stay tuned for more on Braintree Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Braintree Today. While Massachusetts is still in Phase 3 of the reopening plan, the town of Braintree continues to release important updates and news regarding the virus. Since last week, Braintree Town Hall has reported 25 new cases, bringing the total number of positive cases in the town up to 1,088. The town hasn't reported any new fatalities in about 2 months, which has kept the death toll in Braintree at 120. Town-by-town data was released by the state confirming that about a third of Massachusetts communities, including Braintree, had rising coronavirus test rates. The past few weeks, Braintree has been seeing better trends in the data as the town has moved to a 1.39% positive test rate. Neighboring towns have seen similar positive test rates, with Holbrook at 2.05%, Milton at 1.12%, Quincy at 1.48%, Randolph at 2.63%, and Weymouth at 2.65%, all of which have seen an increase in positive test rates in the last 7 days. Even with declining positive test rates, Braintree is still considered a yellow community, a designation given to cities and towns that average 4 to 8 cases per 100,000 people daily. On another note, with Halloween just 2 weeks away, America Chorus and the town of Braintree have announced that they will be celebrating Halloween this year with door-to-door trick-or-treating on Saturday, October 31st from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. With trick-or-treating, Braintree has asked everyone to follow the CDC guidelines in wearing a mask, keeping 6 feet distance from others, and to please refrain from eating candy until you get home. For more information and guidelines for trick-or-treaters and for handing out candy, please visit Braintree Town Hall's website at braintreema.gov. You can also call the Braintree Health Department at 781-794-8090. On another note, Planning Board met this past week. Here's Petra Lynch with more on what they discussed.
Planning Board met earlier this week on Tuesday, October 13th, and had a discussion about the major modifications to the special permit and site plan review for the Peterson Pool. Back in July, it had come to the Planning Board's attention that during construction of the Peterson Pool, there was some concern for potential drainage issues. Additional tests and analysis on the site was done, and through this process, they were able to identify inconsistencies in the original approved data plan that would have had negative long-term effects. Consulting engineer Philip Cordero from Allen & Major Associates, the firm that was hired to redesign the drainage system after the former consultants had been fired, recommended that the drainage system should be modified in order to fit the current conditions of the site. Philip Cordero also noted that under the major modifications application, besides the stormwater system and building elevation, they needed to make sure to include a revised utility plan, modified sewer routing, and updated landscaping plan. The board ultimately made a motion to send the drainage redesign to peer review for further examination in hopes of moving forward with the major modifications sometime in either November or December. Here is Philip Cordero explaining other aspects of the project important to the neighborhood.
So we provided, as part of the major modification, the site plan that is now up on the screen. This is the layout plan. And we'll start here in that by providing open air stormwater basins, we did need to modify the easterly access road around the building and the northerly sidewalk that enters the building. We can still provide accommodations for emergency apparatus to navigate around 3/4 of the site as per the original permit. So we're making sure we meet NFPA guidance and requirements here, regardless of the new design. We've also wanted to make sure we did not provide an enlargement of the approved limit of clearing to our neighbors to the north. So we've worked within the footprints that we were given under the approved plans to make the modifications as seamless as possible.
Thanks, Petra. Stay tuned for more on Braintree Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Braintree. This year, the Braintree Department of Elder Affairs will be hosting Senior Health and Fitness Week from October 13th to October 20th. Events for Senior Health and Fitness Week include cardio strength and flexibility classes, classes on healthy food preparation, outdoor walks, and live entertainment. The Braintree Department of Elder Affairs will also be hosting an outdoor bingo event on Wednesday, October 20th. For a full list of the week's events, you can visit the Braintree Town Hall website at braintreema.gov. All events are free and open to Braintree seniors, but donations will be accepted. Pre-registration is required, and residents can do so by calling the Department of Elder Affairs at 781-848-1963. In other news, early voting for the November 3rd voting in Braintree will take place starting this Saturday, October 17th, and continue through Friday, October 30th. All early voting will take place at Braintree's Town Hall Cahill Auditorium. You can find more information regarding dates and hours on the Braintree Town Hall website at braintreema.gov. On another note, on Friday, October 9th, the Braintree Town Hall filed a notice of claim seeking an adjudicatory hearing on September 29th for Mass DEP to make their final decision. Mass DEP decided that the electric motor drive was not the best available control technology to limit nitrous oxide and other pollutant emissions from the compressor station. The town of Braintree also joined the town of Weymouth's notice of claim appeal. Braintree is entitled to a hearing since portions of the town are at risk of potential impacts to air quality from the station. In more news, the Burger King at 165 Pearl Street in Braintree was broken into this past Monday. The intruders stole money from 4 cash registers, according to Braintree Police. The next morning, around 4:30 a.m. Tuesday, police were called to the Burger King. An employee told officers he had arrived to work just 10 minutes prior and found one of the cash registers broken and on the ground. Police cleared the building and found 4 cash registers that were forced open and emptied. Police said other items in the fast food joint were thrown around, and a backpack of miscellaneous tools was also found, along with a wrench on the floor near one of the registers. Police said they didn't find any signs of forced entry into the Burger King. Anyone with information about this incident is asked to call the Braintree Police at 781-794-8620. In other news, last week, school committee member Kelly Cobb-Lemire was facing some backlash after posting a controversial comment on Facebook involving a Braintree veteran. This week, Town Councilor Julia Flaherty is also on the list for removal after residents found a comment from Flaherty under the original post reading, quote, "Irony achievement unlocked," end quote. District 4 Town Councilor Stephen O'Brien attempted to introduce the motion for Flaherty's removal as chair of the Council's Elder Affairs and Veterans Committee, but was unable to act on this within the same meeting due to council rules. O'Brien said he intends on bringing up the motion again at the next meeting. Meanwhile, petition organizers who wish to remove Cobb-Lemire have asked Town Clerk Jim Casey to reduce the amount of signatures needed due to the pandemic. Casey is still reviewing this request. On another note, the MBTA is making some service cuts to the ferry rides from Hull and Hingham to Boston. Due to low ridership from the coronavirus pandemic, the budget has faced a shortfall this year. This could lead to a complete cancellation of these ferry rides and even cuts to some commuter rail services. MBTA officials haven't made any final decisions involving these cuts, but are continuing to weigh their options, which include eliminating commuter rail weekend services, stopping commuter rail rides after 9 p.m. on weekdays, eliminating ferries, consolidating bus routes, and reducing both bus and train frequency. In other news, Braintree residents made 34 contributions, which totaled to $9,657 to the 5th Norfolk District State Representative candidates in 2020, according to year-end campaign finance reports filed with the Massachusetts Office of Campaign and Political Finance. The biggest beneficiary was incumbent Representative Mark Cusack, whose campaign received $6,257 from 10 Braintree donors. This week, the 2 candidates battled it out in a debate on Thursday night hosted by the Braintree Chamber. If you want to see more from their debate, you can tune in to BCAM TV to see the full event. Thank you for watching Braintree Today. We'll be right back with more in entertainment. Welcome back. Now I'm joined by Petra Lynch for What's New in Entertainment. What's happening this week, Petra?
There's lots of spooky movies and interesting TV shows coming out this week. For instance, on Netflix is a family-friendly movie about a babysitter who hunts monsters. And in theaters this week is a new film about finding love after a monster apocalypse. Then check out Hulu for a Marvel horror series centered on the adult children of a serial killer. And on network television, check out the reboot of a beloved game show. Based on the popular book series of the same name, The Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting is a family-friendly Netflix film that follows a teenage girl after she reluctantly agrees to babysit on Halloween. When the child she is watching is kidnapped by monsters, she is recruited into a secret society of babysitters who protect kids with special powers from monsters. In theaters this week is a new film, Love and Monsters, starring Dylan O'Brien. This film follows his character, Joel Dawson, 7 years after the monster apocalypse, as he and the rest of humanity have been living underground ever since giant creatures took over Earth. After reconnecting with his high school girlfriend, Amy, over the radio, Joel realizes there's nothing left for him underground, so he decides to venture out and find Amy despite all of the dangerous monsters that stand in his way. Then on Hulu is a new Marvel series riddled with horror and blood, Hellstrom. The Marvel show follows Damon and Anna Hellstrom, the son and daughter of a mysterious and powerful serial killer. The siblings have a complicated dynamic which is seen as they track down the terrorizing worst of humanity. And one of the most well-loved game shows in TV entertainment history, Supermarket Sweep, is getting an updated reboot on ABC with a new host, SNL's Leslie Jones. In this show, contestants do their best to fill up a shopping cart with items from the show's grocery store set. The contestant who is able to fill up their cart with the highest dollar amount takes home the grand prize. And new in music this week is a collaboration between popular singer-songwriter and producer Love and rising star Conan Gray as they teamed up to release a new single, Fake. The fun track dropped along with an official music video in which the pair is ushered through increasingly outrageous and colorful stage settings as they try to remain true to themselves in a world where more and more people seem to value having 1 million Instagram followers over creating real connections with other people. The music video can now be watched on Love's official YouTube channel, and the track can be streamed on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music.
Thanks, Petra. I can't wait to catch up on some of those spooky films this weekend. Thank you for watching Braintree Today. We'll be right back with Braintree Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Meet James. He just got his yearly checkup and he's in pretty good health. Except his blood pressure was elevated, about 128/82, which means he's at risk for high blood pressure, also called hypertension. This was serious. High blood pressure can lead to heart attack, stroke, or even heart disease. James was totally shocked. I'm only 43, he thought, and I feel great. But his doctor had good news too. There are steps he could take to get those numbers in control and even lower them. His healthy path started with getting his blood pressure checked regularly. Next, one of the most important steps he took was quitting smoking. Smoking increases blood pressure and the risk for heart attack and stroke, and quitting could lower his blood pressure very quickly. So after several tries and with a combination of medication and coaching through the helpline, he was able to ditch the habit. James also worked on cutting down on salt. He learned that the problem wasn't just adding salt to his food. High amounts of salt or sodium is hiding in foods like cheese, deli meat, frozen meals, and canned soup or vegetables. Now he double-checks the sodium on food labels. James and his provider also talked about what to eat more of and less of. More fruits, vegetables, whole grains, fish, lean poultry, and low-fat dairy. And less red meat. Too much alcohol can also raise blood pressure. So James talked to his doctor about what was healthy for him. More exercise was also an important step on his path. He didn't want to join a gym, so instead he added a 30-minute walk to his routine 5 days a week to strengthen his heart and keep a healthy weight. Getting on this healthy path hasn't been easy, but it's made a big difference in his blood pressure. and help lower his risk for heart problems down the line. James now knows it's never too soon to think about his blood pressure numbers. Learn more at mass.gov/blood pressure.
Welcome back. Now I'm joined by Mike Wassel for the latest on Braintree Sports. What's going on this week, Mike?
This week, boys soccer faces Weymouth and Milton, while girls soccer and field hockey battle Milton. Let's take a look at the highlights. Braintree and Weymouth and boys soccer, and it's an early opportunity for the Wildcats, but Braintree with a big save in goal, and then here on a cross, it is Braintree heading it away, and right now, due to COVID, that is a challenge that cannot be taken. You cannot head the ball, but Braintree fortunate on the free kick that they're able to make the save, although it did look like that was a shoulder that was used, as now it's Weymouth again in, and that one is stopped, and a second chance as well, as Braintree making some big saves in goal, as McCloskey has been strong, but Weymouth is able to deliver and get the game's first goal here in the second quarter to go ahead 1-0, and then Braintree looking for an answering goal here in the third quarter, and Morgan just missed it as his shot is cleared away by the defense, and then Weymouth looking for an insurance goal here in the third. They get a couple of nice putback moves going left across the field, and then the shot squeaks by the legs of the goalie to go ahead 2-0, and that was the final score as Weymouth beats Braintree 2-0. Field hockey, it's Braintree and Milton, as an early opportunity is by the board for Braintree as they continue here with another chance, and this one just goes by the back post as it remains scoreless here into the second half, and Braintree looking to get the game's first goal, and right on the doorstep it is Lee, and she scores on a nice backhanded shot as Braintree goes ahead 1-0, and just about 30 seconds later it's Milton on the ensuing face-off. They are able to bring it down the field, and they score to tie it at 1. As the Wildcats now looking to take the first lead of the game, and they score a 2-1 advantage as 3 goals were scored in about 3 minutes here in the third quarter, and then Braintree with an excellent opportunity here to try and tie the score, but the shot is just inches wide of the far post, and unfortunately Braintree drops this one in a heartbreaker, 2-1 to Milton. Braintree and Milton in girls soccer, and it is a slide tackling foul called, as Braintree disagreed with the call, but it doesn't matter, and Milton will shoot and score on the free kick, as that is the reason we had to show you how they got it, as they score, and then Braintree with a free kick of their own, but the shot goes up and over the crossbar, and then Braintree looking for a tying goal here in the third quarter. It's Ewan, who missed over the crossbar in the prior chance, this time will not miss, as she scores into the empty net and ties it at 1, and then Braintree late in the game here in the fourth quarter looking for the go-ahead goal, and it's stopped, and that is the way the game comes to a close, a 1-1 tie between Braintree and Milton.
Those were some entertaining games. What's on deck for next week, Mike?
Thanks, Martha. Next week begins the halfway point of the season. Braintree will battle Walpole in all sports as they head into week 3 of the fall sports season. Field hockey's been off to a very strong start so far with 3 wins in 4 games, while boys and girls soccer are hoping for their first victory of the season.
Sounds like a full week of sports ahead. Thank you for watching Braintree Today. That was Mike Wassel, and I'm Martha Constantinides. That's all we have for news this week. See you next time.